Okay. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon here, as the case may be. It's a little afternoon. My name is Dylan Martin, and I'm the communications director of the Transparency Foundation. We are going to get started here with our Transparency Foundation training on our Secure the Vote initiative and why voting early is the best way to secure your vote. We will take questions at the end of this presentation. In the meantime, if you have questions, you can type them into the chat box in here, which is now enabled. Let me just double check here. Yes. If you have questions, then you can type them into the chat box. And of course, if you would like at the end of this presentation to use the Zoom feature, you can click raise hand and we will call on you. And also at any time, you can also email us your questions for a response after this briefing at electionintegrity@thetransparencyfoundation.org, or you can call us and we'll get back to you there as well. The best way, though, of course, is by email. That's going to be the easiest way to reach us, electionintegrity@thetransparencyfoundation.org, and we will get back to you, but we'll take questions at the end of the presentation. We will also provide a copy of this briefing on our website so that you can share it with others and come back and consult it. And with that, let's get started. The Transparency Foundation is a nonpartisan nonprofit 501c3. As such, we do not engage in express advocacy or political activity. We also take no government money, unlike a lot of left-wing organizations that are fully funded by government and taxpayer resources. We are not. We are exclusively funded by grassroots contributors who care about making government more transparent and accountable, and we could certainly use that in California. The Transparency Foundation picked election integrity as one of our core programs because people don't have transparency about what's going on during elections. And that has resulted that lack of transparency and a lack of quality control, lack of internal controls, performance, that has led to a corrosive and cancerous lack of public trust in how our elections are conducted. So by shining a light on the process and challenging government to improve its internal controls on elections, we hope to improve the trust and confidence that people could have in how elections are conducted. But remember, nothing in this presentation will relate to endorsing candidates or taking positions on ballot measures. What we want to do is make sure that the general public is going to be benefited by an election that's conducted with the highest level of integrity, and that voters themselves understand the process and know how to vote and secure their vote by tracking it through the ballot tracking systems. Our first strategy for addressing issues of election integrity is to try and improve the quality of the workforce in every election office in California. So before we get into, why voting early is important and how to secure your vote, this is one other aspect to election integrity that is really important that we want to touch on and that we've been working on. We have a whole other training about this on our website. If you go under the news section, it's one of our top stories on the transparencyfoundation.org. There's also a briefing on it there that you can watch and or view the slides on that for more in-depth coverage of this particular topic. But the workforce, we need to address the workforce in every election office in the state of California. Most people think that the state election is held by the state of California state government, but it's actually not. So the state government sets rules and regulations through the Secretary of State's office for how elections are to be conducted statewide. So it's, the actual mechanics or actual execution of the election, from verifying the eligibility of candidates to putting ballot measures on the ballot, to printing and designing ballots, to mailing them out, to receiving them and processing them, to theoretically checking signatures to verify, to maintaining accurate voter lists. All of those responsibilities are actually done by the individual counties in the state of California. And people need to understand that it's a dual system there. So state regulation tells the counties what they're supposed to do. And a lot of those regulations are not good. A lot of them are flawed. A lot of them are vague. But it's up to each individual county to get the job right. within the construct or confines of bad regulations that the California Secretary of State has imposed on them. But what we noticed at the Transparency Foundation is not only that there's a great divide between the quality of how counties implement their elections, but that left-wing organizations and political campaigns over the past several years and past several cycles, particularly since 2014, 2016, 2018, around there, they've aggressively funded and executed and implemented recruitment operations of their activists, their partisan activists, to take jobs in local county election offices. So we find that that's producing an unfair result where the seasonal workforce for each election office and the primary and general election, when they hire staff for the polling locations, that, actually receive ballots, open them up, they check signatures, they process them. If it's all one side of the aisle of partisan activists, that really calls into question whether those individuals can be trusted without bias to do the job. We're not saying that they shouldn't be allowed to do that. Everyone has the right to take those jobs, but our argument is that it's much better if everyone from every political point of view was involved in the process and had eyes on it and was checking each other's work during, checking votes and all that stuff. That, makes sure to keep everyone honest. Whereas if you're all one side of the aisle, you may not keep each other honest, per se. So that's an aspect here. So we want, good, trusted people of every ideological end of the spectrum to take county elections jobs. So that's why we're trying to educate people that these jobs exist. And we want to train people through briefings on how to properly do that job and improve the caliber of staffing at county election offices. Of course, I've told you that the Transparency Foundation does not get involved in ballot measures or even lobbying. That's not something we do. But we do study reforms and explain how reforms can improve a system or what the current confines of the system are that may lead to election integrity issues or concerns. But so I'll touch a little bit more on how you can get those jobs, just a tiny bit, and other ways that you can help too in county elections offices. But just so you really understand why those jobs are important and why our focus on election integrity is important, is we did an audit in 2023 of the 2022 midterm election in California. And I would really advise that you take the time after this briefing to read that report. Because most people, when they're concerned about election integrity, they get misinformation from the internet, they get conspiracy theories, and I'm going to talk about some of them, and they spread conspiracy theories, and some of them are grounded in facts. Most of them are not, but we deal with facts here, and we want you to be armed with factual information and what the real truth is, the full truth of some of this stuff. We want you to have a full, comprehensive, fact-based understanding of California's election, how it's done, what the major flaws are, what the lack of integrity is. If you're interested in a more deep dive on that, then you can find this report of this audit at electionintegrityca.com and share that report, because it's really educational, and it's important to have these facts when we're talking about what's going on with these elections. And one of the biggest problems identified by that report is that there's inadequate signature reviews by county election offices, and as those ballots come in. But we found that California failed 9 out of 10 election integrity criteria in that audit. And it's insane. The media doesn't want to talk about this. They don't want to talk about when you have actual hard data that shows any of this is really happening. They ignore it. But it's up to us and grassroots people interested in election integrity to share the actual facts of what's going on. But for example, we back to the signature verification, when signatures are not properly vetted, the risk of voter fraud occurs is significantly higher. So we looked into signature reviews in that audit, and we believe one of the most important things in election integrity is to make sure that election offices are doing signature reviews aggressively and properly, which goes back to the taking jobs in county election offices that help verify those signatures are correct. And we implemented two pilot projects of training workers and deploying them into 2 counties in previous elections. And we compared the percentage of ballots rejected between the primary election prior to our pilot and the general election during our pilot. And we tripled the percent of ballots rejected in those 2 counties through our pilot project that were rejected for bad signatures. So, and keep in mind that no ballots were rejected inappropriately, because ballot cure rate of people saying, no, that's my signature, please correct it, please accept my ballot, that is my signature, I promise, that didn't spike. So it wasn't that we were more aggressive. It's just we caught more of the problems that people did not, object to. We found more bad signatures that were, potentially fraudulent. So that program is really important. And identifying signature verification as a weakness is something that taking those county election jobs would help with. So I urge you to go online, read that report on the fraud, view our briefing on the more in-depth aspect of taking these elections jobs. But now into the safe voting method, why on election integrity here, why is voting early so safe, and what is the safest ways to make sure your ballot is received and counted? So we want you to vote. We want you to know how to vote with the most integrity. And part of that is we strongly urge people not to wait until election day to vote. Vote in the first 72 hours of the election. Your ballot will be mailed out, no matter where you live in the state, about 30 days before election day. So for the primary election here, it's going to be mailed the first week of May. You'll probably get it by the end of the first week of May, maybe like between May 7th and 10th, probably around there is when you'll get it in the mail. You should vote immediately when you get your ballot. And we urge you to tell your friends, vote immediately as well. Many groups out there, they get this wrong. I don't really know why they get it wrong. Either they're ignorant on the process, or they're intentionally creating a problem with conspiracy theories. And we do not believe that their recommendations are helpful. And we actually think that their recommendations are really, really hurtful. And it puts voters at great risk of losing their vote in an election, because the voters, if they wait until the end of the election, if you wait until election day to vote, you cannot assure that your ballot was counted. And that's a shame. And that's why we keep telling people, vote immediately. Do not wait. And so this is what our safe voting method is. It's send, audit, fix, and examine is the safe voting method that we recommend. And we have bipartisan support for this. And people who are election integrity activists on both sides, they agree on this. The election lawyers agree. The practitioners agree. Voting early is the best way to verify that your ballot is counted in an election. And here's why. So first, voting. Let's show this video first, and then we'll get into the step-by-step process of the send system.
Are you worried about the integrity of our elections in California? We are too. The Transparency Foundation has launched the Secure the Vote initiative to combat voter fraud and promote the most secure way for you to vote in California elections. What is the safest and most efficient way to vote? It may surprise you, but we recommend that you not wait until Election Day to vote, and there are 3 major reasons why. First, the number of polling stations in California has been reduced, and there will be long lines if you wait until Election Day. If you contribute to those long lines, you'll actually suppress the vote by turning less dedicated voters away. Second, the candidates that you support the most will actually save time and money if you vote early, because they won't have to continue to mail, call, text, and email you. The side benefit of voting early is you get a little peace and quiet because they won't be pestering you. Third, by voting early before Election Day, you can use the safe voting method. Step 1 of the safe method is to send. Send in your ballot on day 1 of the election. Voting early prevents long lines and gives you the full 30 days of the election to verify your vote is counted or resolve any problems. Step 2 is to audit. Audit by tracking and verifying that your vote is received and counted online. Check often until your vote is counted and verified. Step 3, fix. If you have a problem or your ballot isn't counted by day 20 of the election, you can go to the nearest polling location and demand a second provisional ballot and then vote again in person. Again, don't wait until Election Day. Step 4 is to examine. Examine and monitor the processing and counting of ballots in your area by signing up as a volunteer at electionintegrityca.com. For more resources on election integrity or to report any problems you have with casting your ballot, visit electionintegrityca.com.
Okay, so that was the video overview kind of on the system of kind of the short introduction there. But step 1 here. So why voting early? So by sending your ballot even in the mail in the first 72 hours, it gives you the full 30 days to verify that your ballot was actually counted, the full 30 days of the election. If you mail it on the first 3 days, let's say that the Postal Service delivers it in a day, let's say they take up to 3 days. The local mail doesn't take more than 2 days, but let's give them 3 days. That means that in the first week of the election office in your area gets your ballot and can process it. It takes no more than a day or two to process ballots. So by day 7, 8, or 9, your ballot should show that it's been received and counted. And that's where audit comes in the next part is we want you to audit your ballot by day 7, 8, 9, 10 of the election. And the way that you can do that is by going online, the Secretary of State's website, or when you get your ballot, it should have this information on it. Ballot tracking, where's my ballot.sos.ca.gov should be on there. As a registered voter, you probably also get text messages or email updates when your ballot is received in the mail and or when it is received by the election office when you send it back in. And there are different statuses for your ballot. So there's mailed out, there's received. Once you mail it back in or deliver it to your county elections office or whatever, they'll update your status as that it's been received. But you want to keep checking online or keep checking your text messages, et cetera, to make sure that you get the notification that it's been received and counted. Because just received could mean that it's been, hey, we got it. Oh, by the way, it was ripped in half. And so we can't count it, So you want to make sure that it's received and counted once it's mailed back in. And you can check that at where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov. And there is a system for putting in your name, your address, and they can pull up your status of your ballot, and you can check that it's been received and counted. Many of you, I mentioned you'll get an email or text message when your ballot mails, as well as when it's received and counted. But even if you don't get a text or email because the state may not have your number or your email, you can proactively verify that your ballot was counted by going to that website. And we need to condition, train, and educate voters that voting is not just filling in all the bubbles and sealing it in an envelope and signing. No, part of your responsibility as a voter is you are doing that, and then you're tracking your ballot to verify that it was received and counted. So you need to do that in the first week and a half to 2 weeks of the election, because if for some reason, as part of this audit process, if for some reason by day 10, 11, 12, 13, your ballot that you mailed in the first 72 hours of the election, if by 2 weeks into the election, it's not counted or received, you can go into your county election office, your polling location, and you could demand a second ballot. So you are entitled to 2 ballots in every election. Dead people get 4 ballots, but no, just kidding. You get 2 ballots in every election. So you get your original ballot, and every voter is entitled to ask for or demand, without any explanation, without any ability for refusal, you can ask for a second ballot, a provisional ballot is what it's called, and cast that second provisional ballot. So if your ballot has not been verified and you sent it in the first 72 hours and by day 13, 14 of the election, that's where we recommend that you fix the issue by going into your nearest polling location or the Registers of Voters office and demanding your second provisional ballot, and then you can vote in person. So do not wait until Election Day. Fix the problem immediately. And then examine Examine is sharing this information with your friend. As part of our fixed process too. If you notice any problems with your ballot, if you notice any problems during the voting process, et cetera, you can let us know. You can say, hey, there's something strange with my ballot, or, there's a problem with the system or whatever. We had in 2024, a lot of people report that some of their ballots had a punch hole in the ballot or an area where you could see through to see how you voted. During the Prop 50 election, for example, there was a punch out in some counties, not all of them, that would show whether you voted yes or no on Prop 50 through your ballot envelope. So that would potentially be a concern, a problem with your ballot. That is something that, potentially the lawyers, et cetera, can investigate. Or if there's any other weird things you notice in an election, you can report that to us at problemballots.com, and we can look into it. But then, of course, is the examine process here is step 4. Step 4 is sharing this information with your friends and family, but also signing up as a volunteer to either work, signing up to either work in election offices as an election worker, like I mentioned. You can go online to your local county election office. For example, San Diego, you would go to sdvote.com, the county registrar of voters. You look to see if they have any open jobs. And you can take an election job that way. But the other way in examining the process is to be a volunteer at election offices, where you go and you poll watch and you monitor, you watch the workers counting the ballots. You make sure that they're not doing any funny business or something like this. But I do want to impress upon you that we want people to vote early, is that the politicians in California have dramatically reduced the number of polling locations available on election day. So we raise a concern here that this is actually a form of voter suppression, because polling indicates that liberal voters prefer to vote by mail. So they'll vote really early in the election with their mail ballot, but conservative voters prefer to vote on election day. And no sooner. They want to go on election day itself. Whether that's right or wrong doesn't matter. They like to go into in-person polling locations usually. And the state politicians have eliminated polling locations on election day. Now there's very few in the state of California. So if you're choosing to wait to go in on election day, you are going to potentially suffer really long lines on election day. Because if there's only, say, for an example, say there's only one polling location for your entire county, if you go up to vote on election day, then you may have a 2, 3, 4 hour line potentially, because everyone in your county is showing up at that election office. And that can actually suppress the vote because, say, for example, you are a suburban soccer mom that has 10 kids that, you're looking after soccer practice one day, and you really quick after soccer practice want to drop off your ballot at your polling center and then take all the kids out to dinner or something. And you pull up really quick and you want to just, run in and drop it off. And you pull up to the polling location and there's a 2, 3, 4 hour line. You're probably not going to vote at that point. Even though you may really want to vote, you don't have time to wait in a 4 hour line for that. You got to go and get the kids dinner or something. So that's just an example of how this can suppress the vote and chase people away. And so that's really unfortunate. And we believe that's a thinly veiled attempt by liberal politicians to suppress conservative voters. And that's unfortunate. So this is why we need to educate all voters that if they wait until election day, not only are they going to be sitting in a long line, but they're contributing to the suppression of the vote by creating a long line themselves. And again, there's a lot of yahoos out there that are hurting our elections by urging people to go in on election day. It is absolute foolishness. It's voter suppression, and it needs to end. And the other thing too with that is there's also the argument that a lot of these people who say that you should wait until election day, they argue that, for example, if you wait until election day, then, the political parties, the Democrats or the Republicans or whoever, they they're going to know how to cheat the election if I vote early, because they'll know how many people have voted and they'll be able to come up with a magic number of fraudulent ballots to rig the election. Wow. That's a nonsensical argument, and I'll tell you why. It's because political parties, they're able to find out whether you voted in the last several elections. So, most of these people that are holding on to their ballot until election day, they tend to be voters that vote every election. And Democrats, Republicans, they'd be able to look that up and they'd be able to see that you vote in every election. We call them 4 out of 4 voters. You voted in the last 4 elections. And what they do is, even if you haven't voted yet, they are assuming you're going to vote because you voted in the last 4 elections. So if you're holding onto your ballot until election day, you're clutching it, you're like, they'll never know I'm going to vote. I've got a fast one pulled on them. They know you're going to vote. And even if there were, they were engaging in any nefarious, vote counting or ballot rigging or whatever, they're going to factor you into their considerations anyway, whether you're holding onto your ballot until the last minute or voting early. They know you vote in every single election, so they're going to count on the fact that you're going to be voting in that election too. So you're already factored into whatever fraud schemes they may have. So you're not fooling anyone. Sorry. But that's not truly where the fraud is. I mentioned it earlier. It's really going to be in the signature. The signing of ballots is where there's the greatest risk in anything being off or nefarious or anything like that. So again, we want you to be armed with the facts on what is happening here. And the facts is you are going to be much more secure in your vote if you vote early, and you're going to be protected still from fraud or anything like that, is because as long as you're tracking your ballot, you're auditing, you're examining, you're making sure it's received and counted, then it's all taken care of. Because here's the thing is, also too, if you vote on election day itself, and then you have a problem happen with your ballot, you check a few days after the election and you see, oh, my ballot was rejected. I went and dropped it off in person at a polling location on election day, and they counted it a few days later, and it shows rejected. You do not have recourse to fix anything at that point. It's past the election. You cannot fix it. So you have given up your ability to ensure your vote is counted by doing that. Again, but if you vote early and there's a problem with your ballot, you can fix that problem by voting provisionally the second time. So all of this it's all kind of tied together in that, again, voting early is the most efficient way and secure way to ensure your vote is counted and not disqualified. You can get a provisional ballot up until 8 p.m. on election day. So, make sure to exercise that, if you need to, if you absolutely needed to go at the last minute, at least for auditing and fixing, you can still fix your ballot up until 8 p.m. on election day if you've already received notice that your previous ballot was rejected for whatever reason. So with that too, there's another benefit too to voting early too, is candidates, they know who's voted or who's not voted so far in an election. They get updates from Secretary of State, their local county registrars of voters. They know which voters have voted already. So when you turn in your ballot and you get the notice that it's been received and counted, that'll update voter rolls and say that, hey, John Doe has turned in his ballot and it's been received and counted. So what that means is you get an extra benefit here is for candidates that you support, in an election. They no longer have to use money targeting you to get you out to vote. So you will see a decrease in the amount of mail, phone calls, text messages, et cetera, that you should be getting from a campaign, assuming they're running their campaign in a way where they're being efficient with their money and making sure to check who's already voted or not. As long as they're checking who's already voted or not, then you should get a decrease in the amount of things you're receiving from candidates. So if it's a candidate you support, you probably don't want them wasting their money on you if you've already voted. So, they can go use that money to benefit themselves, in their election with other voters who haven't voted yet. And for candidates you don't like, or you're just sick of getting notified by election notices and stuff, those will greatly decrease as well, because other campaigns and stuff, they'll see that you voted as well, and so they'll stop bugging you. So I get my phone blown up. I'm sure you get your phone blown up by text messages, phone calls, emails in your inbox, all that stuff, mailers in the mail. I think I had like a big fat stack of them from the same candidate just recently. So all of that, it quiets down if you vote early. But if you wait until election day, you're going to get all of it, and you're going to get your phone blown up. So, if you value your privacy, then that is another benefit as well. So that is kind of the thoroughfare here. If for the examine process, if you want to be a poll watcher and you want to make sure that, these processes are being played out properly, I cover this too on our other briefing on finding elections jobs. We also touch more on how you can be a volunteer to watch the ballot counting process and get into more specifics there. But you can look up and see about taking these jobs at your county elections office. Most of them are already filled because the election is already kind of starting to be underway, but you never know. These are part-time positions. Maybe some people have already quit, or they need to hire someone really quick for the election. You can go on this website here or check out our other briefing for the information about where you can apply to those jobs. Check out if maybe there's any that are open. And then there's also information there about how you can be a poll watcher too, to make sure that these things are counted and done properly. And that's where you can find some of this information on our website, as well as under the Secure the Vote initiative in our program section. And again, we'll make this presentation available after this meeting, and it'll be available on our website under the news section for our most recent briefings. This is kind of what an application might look like for applying to one of those jobs. Once again, that's our safe voting method: send, audit, fix, examine. Please do not give into the misinformation or anything during the election process that says that you have to wait until election day to vote. It's bogus, or they have false information, or they're intentionally trying to mislead you. It is not true. The safest way to vote is to vote early, because it gives you the opportunity to make sure your vote is counted. And we want you to make sure your vote is counted. We want all of your friends to be tracking to make sure their votes are counted. So please use that system. Send it immediately. Send in your ballot. Then track your ballot. Where's my ballot.sos.ca.gov. Make sure it was received and counted and verified. And if you have any problems, if it says that it was rejected, then you have time to go vote in person with your second provisional ballot, and you get that opportunity to make sure that that rejection is fixed by voting a second time. Don't wait until election day. Do not, because then you don't have any recourse if anything goes wrong. Share this information with your friends and family. Please sign up as a volunteer for being a poll watcher. Go in person to be a poll watcher, or take any of those election jobs if they're still open. Check out our presentation available at thetransparencyfoundation.org. We will add this presentation either by end of day today or by end of day on Monday. We'll get that up on our website. But thank you everyone for joining us. Appreciate you for being here, and have a great weekend. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.